Hello learners, welcome to the session on dealing with unions and association. This is part 4 of this particular session. I am Dr. L.K. Jena and I am going to take you through understanding 4 things. One is the problems that the unions confront and the different measures they undertake to strengthen the trade union movement in India. Number 2, we'll be discussing about white collar and managerial trade unions. Number 3, why white collar workers unions are there and what is their purpose and the importance. And finally, we are going to discuss about employers association. You will see over the years, trade union in India have taken for a ride by outside. Basically, trade unions are dominated by the political leaders. Trade Union Act 1926 has not given any kind of recognition on a representative union. As a result of it, multiple unions have been cropped up throughout our country. And often this has happened because the management and outsiders have interfered in the system. The union finances was not been very sound in the very beginning, and still also they are not so sound. The average membership figures for each union remains poor and has not improved yet. The forces of liberalization that has come post 1990s have strengthened the hands of employers in closing down unviable units. Because the new corporate mantra is productivity, performance, efficiency, and survival of the fittest. So that actually when these concepts have come in, the trade unions have got a backseat. Some of the factors which are responsible for their ever-increasing depreciated status are in the form of: one is the trade union leadership. The nature of leadership significantly influences the union management relations, as the leadership is the connecting point between management and trade union. So the leadership of most of the trade union in India is dominated by outsiders, and basically they are in the political parties. So therefore they got depreciated. Why such a reason? Why there is an emergence of outside leadership? One of the things over here you can find out is the reason is there is a very low education standard of people who belong to the trade union. They have a very poor command over English language, which is still the principal language of labor legislation and negotiations. Low level of knowledge about labor legislation, the financial positions being very poor, the fear of victimization by the employer, and the lack of leadership qualities, outside leaders have come to stay. One of the main reasons for this is that the Trade Union Act 1926, because it has given a scope for outside leadership. If you refer the Act, the section 22 says that ordinarily not less than half of the officers of the re-registered trade unions shall be actively engaged or employed in an industry to which the union relates. Therefore, the provision provides actually the scope for outsiders to get in to the tune of 50% of the office bearers. A Royal Commission of Labour, that is RCL, in 1931 recommended for the reduction of the statutory limit of outsiders from half to 1/3, but no efforts were taken in this direction. So this is something as a drawback for the trade union, and that's the reason the outsiders have encroached into it. What is the problem with it? What are the problems associated with outside leadership? Outside leadership basically they undermines the very purpose of the trade union. They weaken the authority. They may work for their personal benefits and prejudices. Outside leaderships stand to be responsible for the slow growth of trade union. internal leadership also, another problem is the internal leadership has not been developed that fully. Most of the leaders, they cannot understand the workers' problems as they do not lead the life of a worker. So even though outside leadership is permissible in the initial stage, it is actually undesirable in the long run because of many evils associated with it. Political differences of leaders have been inhibiting the formation of one union in one industry. So most of the trade union leaders basically who belong to the outsiders, they fulfill their personal aspirations with their knowledge and experience they gain in the trade union. So what are the measures to minimize such effects of influencing or getting in more outside leaders? The National Commission on Labour in 1969 states that the outsiders in the trade union should be made redundant by forces within rather than by the legal means. So both the management and the trade union is expected to take certain steps to work out in this direction. Some of the steps are like management should assure that the victimization will be at zero level even if the trade unions are led by insiders. Management can extend the training program to its own employees in the areas of leadership skills, management techniques and programs that can be extended to the workers. And similarly, there should be special leaves to the sanction to the office bearers to attend outside training programs so that they can get inputs and they can bring it to their own unions. Union rivalry has happened or is happening because of certain, the kind of union rivalry that is happening has been the result of certain factors. And some of the prominent factors is linked to what we were discussing. The desire for political parties to have their base among the industrial workers, factional politics of the local union leaders, or the domination of unions happening by an outside leaders, sometimes the management's attitudes and policies, the framework of trade union being weak. So these are some of the reasons. So how to minimize these union rivalries? Again, there was a set of recommendation that has been brought out by National Commission on Labour to minimize the union rivalry. They told we need to eliminate the party politics and outsiders through building up our own internal leaders. We need to promote collective bargaining through recognition of sole bargaining agent. We need to improvise the system of union recognition. We need to encourage the security, that is the union security, and we have to empower our labor codes to settle all kinds of disputes pertaining to inter-union if they are not settled within the organization. Next comes the multiple union. That is also reason. Multiple unionism we can find out in plant and industrial levels, and these are the things that pose a very serious threat to industrial peace and harmony. The situation of multiple union is said to prevail when two or more unions in the same plant or industry try to assert rival claims over each other and functions with overlapping jurisdictions. The multiple unions are existing due to the existence of craft unions or say formation of two or more unions in the industry. So multiple unionism actually is not a phenomenon which is unique to India. It is also existing in many developed countries like US and UK. Multiple unionisms affects the industrial relations scenario both in terms of positively and also in negatively. It is sometimes desirable for the healthy and democratic health of labor movement, but it also encourages a healthy competition and thus acts as a check to the leadership, to the adoption of undemocratic practices, authoritative structure and autocratic leadership. So therefore, if you see this context, specifically this multiplicity of union it stands to be as a major cause for the weakening of the trade union movement in India. Multiple unionism also results in, say, as I mentioned in the slide, that is like small size of the union, or they may not be having much of finance with them to run their union. Next is called as a union rivalry. The formal basis of trade union organization is given by Trade Union Act 1926, which says that any 7 or more members of a trade union may be subscribing their name to the rolls of the trade union and by otherwise complying with the provision of the Act with respect to registration, apply for registration of the trade union under this Act. But the inter-union rivalry that we discussed a little earlier breaks the very purpose of the trade union by weakening the strength of collective bargaining. On the other hand, the existence of a single strong union actually not only protects the employee's interest more effectively, but also halts the various unproductive activities of the union and forces the leader to concentrate on the strategic issues. So the state of rivalry between two groups of the same union actually is called as inter-union rivalry. So inter and intra-union rivalry, mark my words learners, have been a potent cause of industrial dispute in the country because they are responsible for weak bargaining power of trade union, collective bargaining. Next comes the issue of finance. Sound financial system is always an essential ingredient for effective functioning of anything that includes a trade union. Because in the process of rendering services or fulfilling the goals, trade unions need to perform a variety of functions to organize programs that requires enormous amount of financial commitment. But it is felt that the income and expenditure that is incurred by trade union in India over the years is such, with few exceptions, that the financial position of the union is generally very weak, which affects their functioning. It is being opined that trade union could be more effective if they are paid more attention to strengthening their organization and achieving higher attention of financial solvency. But let's understand where the finance actually comes to trade union. The primary source of income to the union is the membership subscription. But their other sources of union finances are in the form of donations, sale of their own periodicals, whereas the expenditure for the trade union may include the allowances that they extend to the office bearers, the salaries to the office, the annual convention or the meeting expenses, the rents, stationery, printing, postage and telegrams that they incur. So most of the trade union in India, if you see, they are suffering from inadequate funds. Because of this unsound financial position, why, when you study, many research papers says it is because of the low membership and the low rate of membership fees. For example, Trade Union Act 1926 has prescribed the membership fees at 25 paisa per month per member per month. But the National Commission on Labour in 1990s, they have recommended or they have hiked from 25 paisa to 1 rupee. But the government has not accepted this recommendation. But the National Commission on Labour observes and says that an important factor limiting the effective functioning of union in our country has been their financial weaknesses. In most unions, poor finances are the result of inadequate membership strength, and in turn, it can be traced to the small size of unit. In a majority of units, the rate of contribution required for members is also small. So with a relatively low rate of unionizations, total fund that is collected are very small and the general picture of finance of unions is very much disappointing. So low memberships, that is the next reason. Second, another reason is the heterogeneous nature of labor. So what it means? Since workers are coming to the factory with a varied background, it is very difficult for them to put a joint front in case of trouble. So what employer does? The employers exploit the situation, such situation under the circumstances just by dividing the workers. It's like dividing the room policy, basing on their race, religion, language and caste itself, and there happens to be a fight. There are reasons like a lack of interest, because for a large majority of workers, unionism even today, it remains as a foreign issue. In fact, workers avoid the union activities just because of the sheer disinterestedness. So those who become part of the union, also they are not participating in the union work enthusiastically. In such a scenario, it is not surprising to find out an outside leader exploiting the situation, serving their own personal agendas. There are also points like absence of paid office bearers. So weak finance do not permit unions to engage the service of full-time or paid office bearers. That is also a major reason. And there are several other problems like illiteracy, like workers in India, you can see that they are failed to understand the implications of the modern trade union. They are illiterate or they are semi-literate. They have a lot of ignorance and indifference on account, and there is also a predominance of outside leadership. There is another reason like uneven growth, because trade union activities are more or less, they are confined only to the big cities of India, and they are traceable only in large scale units. So this is also an uneven growth also creates a problem. So if you'll see the measures to strengthen the trade union movement of India, there are several things. One is called as a united labor front. We say that unions need to put a joint front. That is like splinter groups, multiple unions actually dissipate their energies or dilute their power and reduce their effectiveness. So unions need to put up a joint effort. So trade unions should form a sort of labor party, and all of the trade unions in the country is supposed to be affiliated to it. If they do this, then that can give them adequate amount of strength both at the industry level and also in the parliament. Second point, it is about the efficient leadership. So outside political leadership has developed because of the absence of internal leadership. Outside leadership, learners minded, this is the main cause for the multiple problems that is associated or that has happened in trade unions. And these problems can be eradicated only through the development of the leadership talent from within, from its internal source. Management is supposed to encourage internal workers to lead their own movement, and management and trade union, therefore, they are supposed to provide education and training facility for the development of internal leadership. Next is called as a membership. In order to make members updated, trade union are supposed to organize continuous training and development programs. Future needs a smart and responsive trade union if they have to survive and thrive. So what it is expected is that Trade Union Act should be amended so as to avoid dual membership. That can be suggested. There should be legal provision for the recognition for the representative union. And third one is unions should not intervene in day-to-day matters. They must focus on important issues that is affecting the workers. Now let's move on to white collar and managerial trade union. White collar employees and professional employees are in the form of doctors, engineers, lawyers, professors, and senior executives and managerial staff. Though it below their dignity to band themselves in union, march the high streets and yell slogans. But today it is different. Trade union is also existing among most professionals, and they are to be called as a white collar employees. They belong to the officers, cadres, senior executives and managers, and they also do strikes and gharavs. You can see in banking industry, in insurance industry these days, they are also going for strikes. They go for mass casual leaves, dharanas and gharavs. So let's talk about the difference that is associated between blue collar workers and white collar workers. First difference is that the blue collar workers are all the soft floor workers, and they are termed as blue collar as their work is not generally being clean. Whereas the white collar workers are all the clerical or office staff who do not work on the shop floor. Blue collar people are the manual worker who has the literacy level very less, education very less. Whereas the white collar people, they are the non-manual worker. and they form a very distinct social ground characteristics because of their diverse socio-economic background. Their level of education may be different, the manner of speech, social custom and ideologies may be different. Blue collar people are being paid on time basis or by piece basis, either on daily, weekly, fortnightly or on monthly basis. Whereas the white collar people, they are time workers paid on monthly basis. They enjoy longer holidays and leave facilities and better privileges. Blue collar people are so inclined towards management. On the other hand, they may be caring for the union than for the management. Whereas white collar people, they hold those jobs that are regarded as a part of the management. So their inclination is towards the management than towards the blue collar. Blue collar people accepting highly skilled categories who are in great demand and can manage to have higher wage income. The blue collar workers are not so well paid. Their fringe benefits and perquisites, if you see, that may stand to be lower than the white collar. But white collar people, because of their professional standing or the social standing, they are more being paid. They get better terms and conditions in their employment and they get better perquisites and fringe benefits. Blue collar people have better union protection, job security by the labor legislation. But white collar people, they are not having any kind of union protection if they are not unionized, and also job security are not being covered in the Industrial Disputes Act of 1947. Blue collar people are mostly engaged in the production process, whereas the white collar people are concentrated in the field of commerce, transport, storage, communications and etc. Blue collar people have no authority, nor they are associated with any kind of decision making process, but white collar people are linked with their employers by being associated with that part of the production process. So coming to a point of why what white collar workers unions are, there are several factors. One is called as when there is a denial of both job security and social security to them by their exclusion from the purview of the labor law, like the Industrial Dispute Act or the laws relating to the wages, bonus and social security. Second one is the anomalies in pay that is caused by implementation of the recommendation of wage board and the pay commission. Third one is nationalization and consequent rationalization of pay and requisites. Fourth one is like white and blue collar unions are actually being registered under the Trade Union Act and are generally known as workers and employees union. White collar workers unions are registered either under the Trade Union Act or under the Societies Registration Act, and they are known as employees unions or employees or staff associations. But the immunity from civil and criminal prosecutions is actually been provided to the unions, its members and office bearers for bona fide trade union activities under the Trade Union Act. And this is not specially been provided under the Society Registration Act 1860. Another point is the members of the white collar unions are more educated, knowledgeable and intelligent, and therefore they are more capable in negotiating and bargaining their demand. The financial and membership wise white collar unions are much stronger than the blue collar unions. The small memberships and poor finances make the latter more dependent on outside leadership and political parties for their day-to-day working. So negotiations with the employers and conciliation and adjudication of the disputes actually hardly been happening. So white collar unions suffer less from multiplicity, politicizations and outside leaders, and consequently from inter-union rivalries than the blue collar people. Some of the white collar employees may be outside the purview of the Industrial Dispute Act and so may have the problem of job security which the union may have to look after. But this may not be a problem if you see the blue collar people. Then the inconsistent and discriminatory promotion and salary policy, that also causes many conflicts and disputes. Gradual narrowing of wages and salary differentials of the blue and white collar workers due to fast improvement in the wage and fringe benefit of the former organization also accounts of a union activity and so causing the feeling of deprivation among white collar people. There is also inflation and soaring prices that is resulting in erosion of pay and standard of living of white collar workers, and therefore they are also leading to the demand for higher pay and DNS allowances and annual bonuses and other fringe benefits. Let's talk about what the differentiating feature of the white collar people. The differentiating features are in the form of managerial association. The managerial trade unionism is no longer a fiction, but is an established fact. The government could not enact a legislation concerning this aspect of trade unionism, or could not introduce some procedure for redressal of grievances of the managerial staff. The central organization of trade unions would have provided the leadership or guidance for proper organization of such unions. Number 2 is about the nature of the managerial association. You can see hardly any organization of managerial employees is a union. They are known as the officers' associations who are registered under Societies Registration Act 1860 or Trade Union Act 1926. The officers do not like their associations actually to be equated with a trade union, so many of their organizations are registered under Trade Union Act 1926. So some of the cases are also been reported to be the pending in court, wherein the officers of certain organizations are claiming that they are not managers but workmen, but they should be given protection under the provision of the Industrial Dispute Act 1947. So the purpose of managerial unions is not very much different from that of the trade union for employees at different but lower levels in the hierarchy itself. But in India, if you will see, the managerial unionism is more in public sector than in the private sector. It is lesser development in private sector. That may be due to the fact that most of the organizations in this sector are usually small, and therefore they are free from that cold and impersonal atmosphere that is usually being found in large bureaucratic organizations. Whereas if you see the small organizations, the problems and difficulties of the officers do not remain unattended. Such individual attention is supposed to be missing in big public sector establishments. So the other possible reason for slower growth of managerial trade union in private sector may be that there are employees not willing to permit their officers to combine and form unions of their own. Why such managerial association? Why it is happening? Number 1 is feeling of relative deprivation. This is a very important reason for the officers and managers to organize themselves and form their association for obtaining fair deal from their management. There has been a feeling that as compared to unionized cadre of workmen and lower staff, they have been getting a raw deal. Number 2 is called as feeling of insecurity. This is another important reason for the growth of officers union, because they do not have enormous protection under the Industrial Dispute Act 1947, which is enjoyed by the employees covered by the Act. Third is the growing harassment of managerial staff by their subordinates. The authority of the managers has been grossly eroded by the unionized workmen and staff. They are making it difficult for the managers to take work from them by being emboldened by the support from their union and protecting the enjoyed from the labor legislation. The fourth point is to be a third force between the working class and management. So being denied the protection of labor laws and as well as the privileges of real manager, the junior and middle level managers have gone for the only options left to them, that is the formation of the officers association. They would not like to be considered as a part and parcel of either the working class or the management, but as a third force between these two groups. This is evident in today's times. Next comes employers association. Learners, the very meaning of employers association, which is called as an employers organizations or EO, mean it is a formal group of employers set up to defend, represent or advise affiliated employers to strengthen their position in society at large with respect to the labor matters as distinct from the economic matters. So they may conclude collective agreement, but this is not a formal rule and cannot be an element of the definitions. The employers' organizations are more concerned relating to a wide range of employment issues that includes the industrial relations. For example, chambers of commerce. This is set up to defend the economic interest of the employers. Some of the countries such as UK, otherwise Norway and Jordan, for instance, the same organizations deals with both. So if you see the objectives of this employers' organization, it is the reason, if you see Tata's effort onto it, now Naval Tata, he told that the employers' organization is required to develop healthy and stable industrial relations, promote collective bargaining at different levels, and bring a unified employers' viewpoint on the issues of industrial relations to the government in a concerted manner. And this employers' association need to represent in the meetings of ILC and SLC boards in conformity with the tripartite approach to the labor market. So some of the primary objectives are like to promote and protest the employers engaged in industry, trade and commerce in India, study, analyze and disseminate the information that is relating to the labor policy, labor management relations, collective bargaining. Employers Association need to offer advice concerning the various aspects of the labor policy. They need to liaise with the union government and initiate the steps that are representative of legislations. Similarly, the secondary objectives of Employers Association is to train and develop the staff and its members, obtain the data on wages and conditions of work, take up the project for social and family welfare, deal with the safety and health at workplace, and initiate the steps to improve public images and improve the public relations. If we see the structure of employees' organization, at present, employees' organizations are organized at three levels. Local organizations, they serve the interest of the local businessman. For example, the Bombay Mill Owners Association. This has been formed to protect the local interest of the manufacturing units performed within the city of Bombay. The second one is the regional organization. The regional outfits such as the Employers Federations of South India, Employers Association, Calcutta. These are affiliated to the central employers organizations itself. Third one is called as the central organization. You may find out there are several apex bodies which are governing the affairs of several regional local associations, and to have better coordination, a superstructure called the Council of Indian Employers was being formed, to bring all these apex bodies, all the sub-apex bodies under its head. Let's talk about, while ending up, let's talk about the different employers organization in India. One is called as an All India Organization of Employers, AIOE, which is set up in 1953, wherein the members who are hailing from manufacturing, banking, insurance, commercial establishment, they got to be a part of this association. The president is elected every year. Similarly, the Employers Federation of India, this has also started in 1933. It has a governing body, executive committee and a secretariat, where the governing body actually formulates the policy, the executive committee implements the policy, and secretariat with its own permanent staff is responsible for carrying out the decision of the governing body. The internal organization of employees called IOE, which is representing the interest of the employees in all social and labor matters at the international level. And this has been founded in 1928 Geneva. The Central Council of Indian Employers is a part of this organization. Similarly, SCOPE, that is called a Standing Conference of Public Enterprise. This SCOPE looks up upon its task as both internal and external to the public sectors. Similarly, there is CIE, that is called as Council of Indian Employers. They are also ensure the closer cooperation and coordination between the two bodies, which together represent particularly the interest of large-scale industry in India. So the principal objectives relating to the industrial relations aspects over here in case of employers organization is to encourage the formation of employers organization and to foster cooperation between employers organizations in India and abroad, to nominate the delegates and advisors to represent Indian employers at the International Labour Conference, International Chamber of Commerce, and similar other conference and committee that is affecting the interest of the trade, commerce, and industry. Third is to promote and support all the well-considered schemes actually for the general uplift of the labor, and to take all the steps to establish the harmonious relations between capital and labor. And to educate, the fourth and most important point is to educate the public with regard to the character, scope, importance and needs of the industry, trade and commerce that is represented by the member. So, well learners, with this we come to an end of the session that is titled on dealing with the unions and the associations. And in today's session, we have discussed 4 important agendas. We have started with the problems confronting the unions and different measures to strengthen the trade union movements in India. We spoke about the importance of white-collar workers to form the managerial trade union, and we have also debated on why white-collar unions are important. And finally, we spoke about employers association and different kinds of employers association that is there. So thank you so much, learners.